That is the punchline to so many good jokes.
That is the punchline to so many good jokes.
That makes absolutely no sense when you actually think about it. And that's when I can reveal we're actually talking about Pinocchio and the Whale. Or something like that.
I thought we were talking about your cats.
You want to tell me where my cat's blowhole is, Pastor Dame? You're crying out loud here, sir.
I'm a pastor, not a veterinarian.
That's also a punchline to many good
That's
jokes.
also a punchline to many
This is true.
All right, so just checking real quick before we start back up. Is it still looking good? Because I'm running across a few different streams,
Because I'm running across.
Yes, just everyone who's watching the stream right now, please make sure that your stream is muted.
Yeah.
So it's not coming through. I don't actually hear anything, but Steven Kiwi says it's you.
What's me?
What's me?
She said top left for echoey. I don't know.
I'm echoey?
I can't hear anything.
I'm echoey?
Okay.
Okay.
That's weird. Okay, hang on.
It could be picking it up through your headphones.
I hear.
Darn it, Game
nothing.
DS.
I hear nothing.
I like that look.
I hear nothing. I'm just.
I hear nothing.
I don't hear
anything. I don't hear anything.
Okay, Arcady Random said it stopped. We're good. Thanks, Arcady.
Okay.
Thanks, you guys.
Also, shout outs to my homeboy Dragnos in the chat.
Hey.
Sup, Dragnos? How's it going?
He's the only person I've ever met who could braid his chest hair down to his belly button. He is that much of a man.
Alright. Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off, which is... Where were we? Ashes of Creation. We were watching the trailer. Let's give that another shot here. It's a beautiful trailer. So we were talking about how amazing it looks for a Kickstarter, and actually, I believe that the trailer was I think this trailer's pre-alpha actually, which is pretty impressive. Most pre-alpha games don't look this good. But the real question is how far are they going to take this MMO? I mean, a lot of them kind of, I feel like they always start strong, and then, halfway through, or, when they're about to hit the finish line, they just kind of give up. Funding gets a little scarce, and you start worrying a little bit about, if all those features are going to make it in the game. And I think that's really the biggest thing. I remember I was one of those who backed Pathfinder, and that did not turn out well for me. Or
oh wait, the
I'm
MMO
sorry.
they made?
Yeah.
Wait, did they
the
make it?
Pathfinder
Oh,
MMO.
yeah, I remember that. Sorry.
I was super excited about that.
The card game is fun.
Yeah. The
Munchkin version of it's fun.
I haven't played the Munchkin version, but it sounds like the best version of it. Who doesn't like the Munchkin version of things? But yeah, I mean, looking at this trailer, it's gorgeous. I would love to see an MMO like this.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they're really pushing for a lot, and Stephen Sheriff, I think is how you pronounce his name, or Sharif. Anyways, he's the head guy. He had funded a lot of this game already because he was independently wealthy when he went into it. So they were acquiring funding to be able to add all these extra features. And as Arcady Random said in chat, thank you, Arcady, that they were focusing on combat first. Now, what I would caution everybody is when you see very early trailers, there are very, very likely doctored. You always have to take anything like that with a grain of salt, because what they're trying to do is to get funding. They're trying to sell you on promise rather than actual function. And we hear about that all over the games industry, things for like E3 trailers and all that. But that said, if they can even get in the neighborhood of the things they promise, I think they're going to deliver something really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah,
now,
I mean, I agree with that.
I don't know too much
I don't know too much
about
the features. I wasn't a backer.
So I'm not really
Ashes.
sure how it's going to compare.
So I'm not
to,
really sure how it's
like,
going to compare to
Camelot
a game
Unchained
like
or
Camelot Unchained or
and I think,
Pantheon.
Isn't Pantheon?
And I think
is it Pantheon that's supposed to be primarily like
is
a
it Pantheon that's supposed to be primarily
PvE.
like a
No.
PvP focused?
It's PvE.
Yes.
Pantheon,
it's
they're
PvE.
going for a PvE focus, group focus.
Yeah.
With
That's
your
right.
role, et cetera.
Yeah, that's right.
It probably would have helped if I would have watched this trailer.
Or you could have read the interview I did at TwitchCon with Brad McQuaid.
Did you?
You could have listened to the interview I did with Steven on Ashes of Creation also.
Yeah,
that's
and you
ideas
could
here, my
have
friend.
listened to the tweets that I didn't tweet to.
Listen, we're outing you as not reading our content, and that means you
Come
owe us
on,
something.
You know what? You guys are right. I did not do my homework. I should have. I spent too much time messing around.
Putting us all together.
Yeah.
How dare you?
It's awful, especially with all these issues. I mean, look. I mean, like Dame is half a robot right now.
Not even a whole robot.
Don't
he's
deflect
half-
onto Dame. I see what
No,
you're
I'm
trying
taking
to do.
responsibility for Dame
No,
right now.
I'm taking responsibility
this is
for
what's
Dame right now. This is what's happening.
happening. So a little bit more about Pantheon then. If
so
you've,
a little
if
bit
you've
more about
spent so
Pantheon
much
then, if
time and
you've
you've done
spent so much
you've
time,
done the
you've
research. Tell us a little bit about it. Why is it on the most wanted list here? Is it just because it's a new MMO? Can we just say?
Is it just because
if
it's
anyone
a new
announces an
MMO, can we
MMO
just
that
say
it's kind of
if anyone
on that
announces
most
an
wanted
MMO
list,
that it's
or
kind
is there
of
something
on that
specific
most
about
wanted
it?
list,
That's
or
like,
There's a
something
couple
specific
things
about it
Pantheon,
that's like
probably. One is the head of it is Brad McQuaid.
right.
So that's your big name behind
Right.
it, since he's was behind EverQuest as well as Vanguard.
Vanguard.
So
yeah.
you're getting that big old
Vanguard,
blood of people
yeah.
like, oh, EverQuest, oh, Vanguard. So you got
They
him
say it
at the
just
head
like
of the
that.
project,
They say it just like that.
Honestly, I'll be honest. When I first heard about it, I was like, yeah, Pantheon, maybe, whatever. Even Brad McQuaid. And then, unfortunately, I interviewed him, and, like, just his enthusiasm is so infectious, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
It's like, he got me wanting to, like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, can I kickstart this now? But I will say the focus of it is what could be the big selling point. PvP, it will eventually come. Their focus is PvE. Their focus is the group play that if you ever played EverQuest back in the day, you couldn't solo much. It was about being in a group. It's about having those stories. It's about living the adventure, taking the time. It wasn't about how fast can I get to the how fast can I get to the end of the level? How soon can I get this raid? How soon can I do this? It was about their focus. They wanted to be about the journey, and there will be the stuff at the end, the group content and stuff like that. But so I think that's where. Really?
We're about to. It's almost like a full-scale battle right now.
It's almost
about
like
to go
a
down.
full-scale battle right now.
Yeah, no.
It's about to go down.
But also, I will admit, it looks good. Obviously, it's more of a retro style look to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you look at the graphics. But I think the biggest selling point is, of course, Brad McQuaid, and it is supposed to be about the old MMO, about taking your time, about doing things. And I will say, after talking with Corey, the guy ahead of the items, not items, but crafting and such, I'm excited for that too, because it sounds like they really want to do like a blend of EverQuest and Vanguard crafting. So.
You know what really appeals to me about Pantheon? Like what you're saying about Brad McQuaid is exactly right. He has a passion for this kind of game that just when you talk with him, you can't help but kind of get wrapped up in that a little bit. I did an interview with him way early into the project because they initially tried to fund. Correct me on this, David. I don't think they actually made it the first time they tried to fund, did they?
I think the first time they did, I want to say they didn't. I can't remember off the top of my head.
So, because I think they disappeared and they came back and they had an angel investor, if I recall correctly. So I talked to them when they were initially doing the first Kickstarter campaign they had, and I walked away inspired. But I also have to say, I was a fan of Brad's in the first place from Vanguard. Now, I didn't play the original EverQuest, but Vanguard was one of these games that even now is still regarded as having one of the best virtual worlds that was out there. And for me, that is what I want in an MMO, is a place that feels like it's alive and that exists when I'm not there. So that by itself has my interest because he and I are right in line with that. Whereas a lot of MMOs now, like your Crowfalls or your Camelot's Unchained, they're about the competition of it more than anything else. Like the virtual world exists to serve the PvP when I think it should really be the other way around.
Right.
Yeah. If I could just put something, because I remember something Brad was talking about. He's talking about this is PvE, is player versus environment, but he wants the environment be more than just the mobs you're fighting. It can literally be the areas, because he wants the world itself to sometimes be against you. Like he said, there'd be some areas where it'd be pitch black dark, so you need certain objects to gain your way through. Mm-hmm. There'd be areas where there'd be mudslides and stuff. So, like you're saying, that whole world content like Vanguard is, I think that's what they're trying to bring into it as well.
Well, that makes total sense to me because if any of you guys played Vanguard, they had this really cool diplomacy system where it was like a card game, but you could go in there and you could like kind of earn favor or whatever with the NPCs around, which was a really unique way to interact with the world. But I think of like that kind of thing, and my mind always goes back to like graphical MUDs where you would go into an area and if it was totally dark, right, you would need to physically type in like equip torch, light torch, or things like that, where it was like all kind of in your head. So for years, I've been trying to find this game that would approximate my own imagination. I don't think Pantheon's going to be exactly it, but I love that they're trying.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
I mean, I totally get that. I think whenever it comes to Vanguard,
totally get that. I think whenever
like
it comes to Vanguard,
it did have a lot of those.
Like you said, it did have a lot of those. It did have that feel of being a world.
What they did with the crafting system,
I think that what they did with the crafting system, although tedious,
one of my favorite crafting systems.
It was one of my favorite crafting systems because it was interactive. You don't usually
like that. I think the real downfall.
I think the real downfall of Vanguard early on was just.
I think it was just a little before its time. I think
it was just a little before its time.
It had a really bad launch.
I was there.
Horrible.
I was there.
Ridiculous drama surrounding that too. The infamous parking lot firing. Which is why a lot of people were not a fan of Brad McQuaid for a long time. He disappeared for years, and you just didn't hear anything about him after that.
I remember.
So this is like his return to the good graces of the gaming community.
Well, as we were having technical issues, we're running a little behind, so I'm going to have to push us up to our next segment here, which means I don't get to play the Camelot Unchained video that I had.
If I could just throw something in real quick, just talking about all these new MMOs we're waiting for hearing about. I think another major thing that will affect whether or not they actually do well is what kind of names they can get behind to stream them.
Yeah.
That's going to make or break some of these.
That's true. Always.
That's just a thing to think about.
So, now we're talking about the Best of 2017 awards. We have two data points here. We have the Steam top sellers and MMORPG.com's most anticipated Best Hybrid MMO, Best RPG of 2017, and Best MMO of 2017 as well. So let's start off with the top sellers. Now, two Tom Clancy games are here on this list, which is, I'd have to say that's a little surprising to me, honestly.
Wildlands is a surprise because it did not do well, but Siege has been doing progressively better every year it's been out.
Right. Siege, I could see. Wildlands, I am pretty surprised at. And, but then again, I was actually, I was kind of surprised that the Division sold as well as it did in the long run. The Division actually, for me, it kind of fell off. But it seems like it's getting a little bit of a resurgence too. So like the Tom Clancy games are really hanging in there. It's pretty impressive, and so is The Witcher 3. I'm pretty surprised about that too. Great game, but to see it on the top sellers list. Now the two games that I did want to talk about because they're just the rise of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I was really surprised at that, and it's a big game on every platform right now. Now, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to play it at all. Any of you? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I've gotten a few chicken dinners and then died horribly as well.
So I have not, but I've watched some really, really entertaining videos of people playing it. Oh my word! There are a couple of streamers that are just absolutely hilarious to watch, and I think that like I have a little bit of a curiosity just for the random chance of getting in with one of those guys. You get somebody like a Stone Mountain 64 that gets in there, and I mean he just like drill sergeants the thing, and it's just it's absolutely fantastic.
All right, so here is a testament to how popular that game is. Now, you just throw that 3 million concurrent players or whatever right to the side. That doesn't matter. Now, I live in a world where keyboards dominate way more of my thought than probably anyone else you're ever going to meet. So I have a keyboard, an artisan keyboard, straight from China that is PUBG themed.
That's the chicken dinner, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is. So you have this artisan keyboard company that's making a pub themed keyboard where it's like it's got to be like $200. It's really expensive, but I'm like, holy cow! The last keyboard that I saw from these guys was all pink and it had a rose on the bottom, and now the space bar says "Winner, winner, chicken dinner."
The thing is ugly as sin, but you got to imagine. You got to imagine that in a game like that, having a hotkey labeled where you can just look and see, that's got to be fantastic.
Dude, you are telling the truth, because I like that game. I just don't get the chance to play it very much, and I don't know all the keybinds because they're not the most intuitive. So now I can literally just look down and be like, oh yeah, that's my energy drink. It's pretty cool, actually. Yeah. So there's your random anecdote.
But how long has that game been out? It hasn't been out that long. It's
been in beta for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
The reason also it dominated the space and it hit so hard because the real competition was H1, which hadn't really done any updating to its game in the last 2 years. They sat idle on their laurels, so to speak, because hey, we're the only game in town. They're going to pay for it.
Right.
Then Pub came out, and well, good luck.
Well, but then you also have the publicity of the fight between the Fortnite crew and the PUBG crew, and so it's
which I might counter that though, Dame, because I don't know that that's necessarily helped Pub. If anything, I think that's helped Fortnite more than anything else.
Yeah, no, I'd say it's helped Fortnite more and Pub less because that's just bad publicity.
I think at one point didn't PlayerUnknown try to sue Epic or something like that or something like that?
It wasn't him. It was Bluehole, like an exec in Bluehole. Yeah, it wasn't him himself because I don't remember him saying that they invented this BS, but it's the Bluehole people.
Well, they did make some really poorly thought out public statements about it, I think. But what's actually happening is you have Fortnite, like their Battle Royale mode is way more popular than the original game ever was.
Oh yeah.
They're on consoles, they got a nice head start. So you had all these people, they couldn't play PUBG on their console, their Xbox anyways, and they could play, or actually maybe PlayStation 4 too, but they could play Fortnite. So they're getting in there, and what they're finding is it's a similar gameplay style, but it's actually fairly different too because there's all these building elements.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Pub had a huge groundswell of word-of-mouth support. And I think, David, what you're saying is totally true. Like, people were not content with H1Z1 because of how they were handled, and Daybreak is kind of cursed. Yeah. But
that's true.
They just kind of picked up on that, and it got in really well with the streamers. And this is the age we live in where if you court streamers and you court these big influential people, then you give yourself a huge head start. But that's holy cow, they have snowballed like nobody imagined, including the developers.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is, like, with Fortnite, and I love both, Fortnite is more arcadey, let's say, and the building aspect as well. But with Pub, it's more of the realistic type shooter stuff and things, but the blend. And it is, like, H1 dropped the ball so hard. I can't tell you how many games I've played where I am 2 feet from a person with a shotgun, and somehow I don't hit them in H1. That's how it used to be played. But then Pub came out, and you could rely on the shotgun to kill someone. And it's just snowballed from there, because, as we just know, Paladins just announced a BR mode.
Yeah.
And Dying Light, a game that's been out for a good while, that keeps updating, is going to have a BR mode as well.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So by this time next year, is anybody going to care about Battle Royale?
2 years.
This happens with everything, though, man. Like, I'm sure Pub is going to be fine. Maybe even Fortnite or a couple of these pretenders. But you get people that are immediately trying to copy to grab that quick buck, and it runs this stuff into the ground.
Always.
Well, and I wonder too, like, and maybe this is just, maybe I'm crazy, but I think that things go. I am.
And a robot.
and a robot.
It's because of the robot brain.
It's because of the robot brain. But I've seen things kind of go in phases, right? Where, like, we had a while there, I'd say probably about like 7, 8 years ago, where like we had a bunch of like hot MMOs that came out like all at the same time. We had like Eon, we had
really
Terra, we had Rift, like all of those kind of came out like around the same time, and then they fizzled out. And then we had the big MOBA push, where you have League of Legends and you have Dota and Heroes of the Storm, then kind of on the tail of that, and just a bunch of MOBAs, and then a bunch of ARPGs came out, in the Diablo 3 and and the point that I'm getting to here is I'm wondering if the Battle Royale is just kind of the next hot thing, and it's going to be here for like a hot second, and people are going to get bored with it, or there's not going to be. And this is the reason why I asked the MMO question, and I'm going to circle back to that because I think the two of them are related here. When I look at stuff like this, I have kind of like resource management brain, where I'm looking at, as a gamer, like for myself, I have a finite amount of time that I can commit to playing video games. Like I have other things, I have other responsibilities and other things to focus on. But it's something that I enjoy doing. So how am I going to spend that resource? And is my resource best spent in an MMO, or is it spent in other titles and stuff like that? And so what I wonder with the Battle Royale and with the MMOs is there, with the volume of games that are being released and the volume of quality games that have been released. I mean, you look at 2017 for gaming, this was a great year. Mm-hmm. This is a great year for gaming. It's a fantastic.
Let's not talk about October.
Yeah, there's fantastic titles that came out this year. But then we get back to that resource management thing of, okay, so can the MMO, can the Battle Royale, can those things sustain the player base to sustain those games for more than just I think it's going to be a fizzle. Maybe I'm being pessimistic, but I think it's going to fizzle.
I don't think that it's really being pessimistic. I think it's being realistic. The market lately has just been they're just oversaturating. Whenever there's something that's really popular, they just throw everything they got at it. And this is actually a really good segue into the next game that's on the list, which was the best RPG of 2017 by MMORPG.com. It's Divinity Original Sin 2. And the thing about them is they are more of a throwback. I mean, they're doing, like an older style RPG, and they were, Steam top sellers. They overfunded whenever they were kickstarting again. I mean, I was surprised that they even kickstarted, because the original, or the Original Sin 1 just it did amazingly as well, so that they kickstarted the second one. But even on top of that, they went well over their Kickstarter. They've sold so many. And I mean, it really does make me feel like I'm playing like a more classic game, like like a Neverwinter or something like that. And I mean, but even still, I mean, so few are going this route with this type of game these days. So I mean, it's just interesting to see that a lot of these games are all trying to do the same thing whenever one is doing a throwback of something old, and they're being extremely successful. I mean, how would you explain something like that, you know?
Oh, well, in terms of not Destiny, Divinity's success, I think that has a whole lot to do. Like, number one, the original Divinity Original Sin was part of that first uptake of those classic games. But those games, like Pillars of Eternity was another one, got so much traction because the AAA sphere had so decimated what an RPG even was, that when these games came back out and they're like, oh, guess what? You don't have to actually fight everything in the game. And oh, your dialogue choices actually matter. I mean, those games happened consistently. It's not like they weren't there, but I think just over and over and over again, the AAA space just pushed out these games where it's like, here are some cursory RPG elements. I mean, even a game like Mass Effect, right? I love the Mass Effect series with the exception of Andromeda, okay? In those games, you would go and you would make choices and they would have an impact, but what was 95% of what you were doing? Shooting aliens, you know? Whereas in this game, it's so much more about character building. It's so much more about playing the way you want to play. You know, when I first got into these CRPGs again, it was so refreshing to be able to jump back in and say to myself, maybe this time I want to try to not fight anybody, and know that that's possible, and know that not only it's possible, but my gameplay experience is going to be drastically different from somebody else's. And that I could screw it up at the drop of a hat if I chose to be a jerk in one wrong instance, you know? So it would just offer such a fresh take on RPGs that the industry got away from because they were chasing that action-heavy, quick dollar thing. It was a flavor of the month that lasted for years, and now we are finally getting back to our roots, and I could not be happier.
Agreed.
Well, I mean... I kind of agree. I mean, we are definitely getting back to our roots in some situations, but I don't think, you know, I don't know if it makes more sense to, you know, kind of let these be like one-offs, like you were talking about, like Pillars of Eternity and things like that. You know, games that are fantastic because maybe they're rare. You know, maybe keeping them rare is what makes them special. You know.
I would agree with that. This could be something else that gets overdone and then people are tired of it. You know, like Dame was saying, you know, we go in cycles and phases and things. But, I mean, that's kind of the nature of this kind of thing. When Pillars of Eternity and Divinity Original Sin came out, I was writing the RPG column for the site, and I would routinely keep a close eye on Steam's RPG listings. And the upswell of this kind of game coming from indie developers was huge. After that, it's not like it didn't happen, the people jumping in on it, but again, I think the reason why we didn't get inundated is because this is a kind of game that has a fairly niche audience, honestly.
Yeah,
so
true.
AAA is not going to devote tons of money in there because they wouldn't get that kind of reinvestment. So I think honestly it could sustain more of those kinds of games because frankly we're not going to hear about most of them. We're going to hear about these big heavy hitters.
Yeah. Agreed. And going back to some heavy hitters, the best MMO of 2017, Final Fantasy. What do you guys think about that? I played it, you know, on launch, and I got into it pretty heavily. And not the first launch, not the original launch. The relaunch. But and I got into it pretty heavily. I like what they were doing, but you know it did end up fizzling for me. But they've made a lot of updates. I haven't gone back, but have any of you gotten back in there to see what's new?
I just have to say kudos to Square Enix for not dropping the ball on that.
Right.
You know, I've been a huge Final Fantasy fan for years. I mean, the Final Fantasy games were kind of what got me into role-playing games. And so while I don't have a lot of experience with playing the online titles, I still follow them. Because I want to, you know, it's like anything that you want to succeed, you know, you want to know about the thing and you want to see anything anything you care about, you want to see it succeed.
Right.
And so like when that had that terrible, abysmal launch, and then they came back and they're like, hey, you know what? We dropped the ball on this. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna relaunch this. We're gonna do it right. I just have to say kudos. Like it's so cool to see that like a game that had such a rough start could make a list like this, and not only make it but top it.
Has there ever been an MMO that had such a bad rough start that actually stopped and came back like this? So I can't think of any top of my head. And like it's amazed me that they actually succeeded, because I was there for both versions, and like I was skeptical when they came back, but I mean it's still fun.
Well, they didn't cut and run.
Yeah, no, which probably likens more to the companies over there and the people behind it, because over here, I don't think in this day and age, I don't think a company over here would have gotten a second chance on an MMO.
No, I don't think so either.
No, I think it mainly is the company itself, though, Square Enix, because I mean, for one, this is like one of their biggest properties, if not their biggest.
Yeah.
So I mean, to think that they would actually drop it, I would have been surprised if they did just cut and run on it. Honestly, I mean, I didn't think that they would end up relaunching it in the way that they did. I can't say that I saw what the original launch was like. I only heard about it. I usually wait a little bit for a launch, unless it's just something that I'm really jazzed about. But I waited a little bit to see what people were saying, and just hearing about how terrible it was. I waited until the relaunch, and I'm glad I did. I mean, since I had nothing to compare it to, aside from Final Fantasy XI. Which I thought was an awesome game.
Yeah.
I think that what they came out with was amazing, but for me, it didn't have the lasting appeal. So I kind of left and played some other things, and now after hearing that it's been that much improved, that it's the MMO of 2017, it does make me think I'm going to come back. I'm going to try it again and see what's new.
For me, it's just a little bit too slow. The pace of it. But I mean, like our Slack chat has people that just love this game, and if you pay attention to Twitter or really any social media that talks about MMOs, like it's very clear that there is a passionate fan base behind this.
Yeah.
So it is really cool to see. I agree, because when they initially were talking about retooling this thing, we'd never seen a company do that before. I remember, because I was really into this when it first came out. I bought the collector's edition of the original, which was extremely disappointing, let me tell you. But when they actually took it down, they fired the original game director or producer or something, and then brought in the team that was going to remake this thing. It did not seem hopeful at all. Yeah, so for them to have done this is inspiring, and I hope other companies take notice. But yeah. I don't think they do, because I mean, look at a game like WildStar. I mean, that was a game that had a ton of potential. Also, people kind of bailed on it. They could have done something similar, and they didn't. And we see that time and time again. So I'm thankful, and I hope it continues to be successful, and that its success story against all odds doesn't just fade away over time, because that's not something this industry should forget about.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
So, the other game that I wanted to talk about before we move on to
the other game that I wanted to talk about before we move on to
the next segment.
It's just going to be a little tidbit segment.
But I did want to talk about one of the most anticipated RPG for 2018, which is Monster Hunter World. I did get to spend a little bit of time in Monster Hunter World.
I did get to spend a little bit of time in Monster Hunter World.
I thought that it was a fantastic game.
I thought that it was a fantastic game.
I was a little concerned about the longevity.
Because
all I got to try was the demo, really. So I don't know if any of you guys have some thoughts on that. This was my first Monster Hunter game.
This was my first Monster Hunter game.
I haven't played any other Monster Hunter games.
To be honest, I haven't played any other
Monster Hunter games. So this was my first, and I was really impressed. I thought that the world was gorgeous. I mean, it was gorgeous. It was kind of on rails.
It was kind of,
but they did. I think it might open up.
But they did. I think it might open up
in the live game.
In the live game.
Fighting the monsters was exciting. It was
fighting
difficult.
the monsters was exciting.
Had a lot of choices
difficult.
Of weapons and
had
gear
a lot of
and all that kind of
choices
stuff.
of weapons and gear and
I had no idea what I was doing or using.
I had no idea what I was doing or using.
I mean, so as far as like learning the game, and,
as far as like
learning
the game,
you know, that world, I'm really excited to do that when the game launches.
World, I'm really excited to do that
when the game launches. I can totally get the most anticipated.
So I can totally get
but
the
I
most
don't know
anticipated.
I mean, obviously it's not just me, but is it
obviously
any of you?
It's not just me, but is it any of you?
No.
Yes.
I would agree with Chris.
Wow.
I would agree with Chris.
Wow.
I mean, just for me, it's not really my thing. I had tried some of the single player games before, and it just didn't connect with me for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
They had some cool ideas though. Like I remember this one. It was on the Vita, and you had all these like cats, and I forget what exactly the cats were, but I remember you had a bunch of cats that would do stuff.
Yeah.
And that honestly, embarrassing, had something to do with me wanting to try it. Because I'm like, well, that's kind of a cute idea.
Yeah.
It's kind of like everyday life for Chris.
The cat's in the background right now. He's sleeping on the couch. Everyone can see that. I mean, yeah.
That's not the shirt sucker.
But,
so I had a chance. I actually had a chance to try it on the PlayStation 4. I tried the beta out, and I think I played like one round, and I looked around like some of the menus and stuff like that, and I just couldn't get into it. I mean, like, the cat companion was pretty cute. I'm not gonna lie.
Wait, there's a cat in this one?
Yeah,
there's a cat.
Why
companion.
didn't you say so? That changes everything.
It's got like armor and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, you can like customize him, and he's like your best friend, and
right. He like chucks you
put
potions
them in a Mario outfit.
Okay, I gotta be honest though. The cat companion was actually the thing that turned me off most about the game. I mean, why a cat? Why can't it be a dog? Now I will say that they did have one kind of look that made the cat look more like a gerbil. And that's what I went with. That's how much I dislike cats right now. Is I would rather have a gerbil than a cat.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like I'm totally dog person all the way. And Chris's cat. It's fine. It's whatever. But
we're okay with his cat.
Yes, we're okay with his cat. But yeah, I mean, the companion, the character design of the companion was pretty good. Yeah. The fact that you could equip them with like a giant fish to like walk around with, and like, I mean,
that's a cat's weapon. I mean,
that's a cat's weapon. Yeah. Right. Exactly. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You were just earning more and more points in this game's column for me. So not only do you have a cat companion, but your cat companion can slap things with a fish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the truth?
You can dress them up too.
All right, it's worth a second. All right, that's it. Cat sweater with a fish slap.
Well,
now mind you, try this.
There'll be special times when they'll have events where they'll have special outfits.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Wait, so my background for just a second. I've played a lot of Monster Hunter, a lot. Like literally, you would
consider yourself a monster hunter.
You would consider yourself a monster hunter then?
You are.
Yes, is the monster hunter.
The monster hunter.
Literally on the DS, there'd be lunch breaks at work. You used to find 4 of us on the steps and backstage playing on our DSs.
Nice.
On a hunt.
That's awesome.
And going from that with the DS graphics to this, like my biggest problem is PS4 Plus, and I don't have a PS4. So I either need to buy a PS4 or wait for the PC release. But the gameplay is great. It is, like you said, a bit on rails, but what I've seen from a few people, like literally the ground broke open and they got swallowed to the ground.
Yeah.
So there are certain elements, like where waterfalls and stuff does happen.
It does.
Let's be honest though, Monster Hunter is above all a grind fest. Understand that is what the core of the game is, because you will grind to kill things, to grind to kill items, to grind to get better armor. They've changed some of the components where you don't need specific armor for specific classes, so you can change up your classes and your items more so. But it is still a grind fest. There are cat companions. They will have special things. Look,
As soon as he starts losing Chris, he's like, but
as soon as he starts losing Chris, he's like,
my cat was dressed up as Mega Man.
Don't worry, cat companions.
My cat had a Mega Man costume.
That's pretty awesome.
Wow.
So
I mean, I would play for a Mega Man cat.
I mean, I would play for a Mega Man.
You're stretching my disbelief a little bit here. Have you ever tried to put a Mega Man costume on a cat? I can buy the fish because they like fish, but they have claws.
Yeah, and you can get outfits for yourself as well.
That's true. That's true. It's very customizable. I was very surprised.
It's very customizable. I was very surprised in a demo at how much I could customize my character.
Most of the time, I mean, I guess
most of the time, I mean,
doing a lot of early access stuff lately. Most of the time it's always the same faces, and
most of the time it's always the same faces, and you might get another
2 different shoes or something. But aside from that,
2 different shoes or something.
So whenever I got into the Monster Hunter World, I was pretty impressed with the amount of customization.
I was pretty impressed with the amount of customization.
But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see whenever it launches. How much they've added to it. I will say that I am anticipating it.
I will say that I am anticipating it. It is most anticipated.
But then again, I don't have a big list right now.
I don't have
the biggest thing I could say about it though is if you don't like the game and get a chance to try the demo again, try every weapon.
I did. I tried every weapon.
Because sometimes
I tried.
If you find that one sweet weapon you like, that can make the whole game so much better.
Oh yeah,
gun lance.
It does. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really? I mean, I don't know what I ended up with.
I don't know what I ended up with the hammer. I was really into the hammer.
All right. So next segment before last segment, really quickly, the Nintendo Switch, fastest selling console in the U.S. What do you guys? Come on, say
Gary,
something.
But great.
Fight me on it.
I love it. Yes, Nintendo. Thank you. No more Wii.
Well, the Wii was the fastest selling, and now it's the Switch. I mean,
well, you know what the Nintendo Switch is, right? It's the Nintendo Wii U that we were promised.
Yeah,
is it?
It really is. Because the big push of the Wii U was like, hey, you've got this portable screen, and you can take it anywhere with you because. Well, whatever. It just didn't do the thing. Sorry, I lost my rant there. I went a little bit off rails, but yeah. All of that being said, though, I really, really like the Nintendo Switch. It's been a great console.
Me too.
There are some things. There are some things that I wish that they would.
One day, maybe money.
There are things that I wish that they would do differently with it.
Such as?
Here's the deal. From a construction standpoint, I feel like the screen is solid. The Joy-Cons, solid. The base feels cheap. The dock for the Switch feels really, really cheap. Now, here's what I'm hoping that they do. And I don't know whether this is just crazy talk here, but
it is.
Crazy talking scene robot.
But call me Nintendo. I really think that something that would keep the longevity of the Switch going far beyond the normal length of other competitors is if they make a base station for it that will supercharge the output of the system.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
I would love to see. I would love to see Nintendo create an off-board like GPU, like an eGPU.
Okay.
For the console.
I know where you're going with this because
I know where you're going with this.
This is the next segment that we're going to be getting into.
This is the next
you have a little box. So we're going to get into that soon enough.
We're
going to get into that.
Don't bring that on Nintendo. Don't make Nintendo do things just because you have something new and fancy that you like.
Hey man, I'm just saying, like, I think, I'm aggravated with Sony and with Microsoft with what they did with the Pro console line.
Yeah.
That bothers me. That you have a generation of consoles or you have a console within the same generation of consoles that is better than the one that you released. Like not just marginally better, but like it's better
Much
than.
better. It makes more sense for Microsoft to do it.
It makes
because,
more sense for
according to
Microsoft to do it
because
that's like
according to Microsoft, that's their console for good. Now it's just going to be
their console
upgrades
for good.
Of
now it's
hardware.
Just going to be upgrades of hardware.
I don't think they're doing like another.
I don't
Xbox,
think they're doing like another Xbox.
Whatever. 1 or whatever you want to call it.
1 or whatever you want to call
it.
But
for PlayStation to do that, I mean, normally whenever PlayStation did that,
normally whenever PlayStation did that
before, it was to
Sony
make
did
the consoles
before, it was to make the consoles
pretty much just
smaller,
as powerful.
Pretty much just as powerful.
Upgraded, but it wasn't
some
like far and away like
upgraded,
much
but it wasn't
better.
Like far and away like
which
much
honestly,
better.
I mean, with as many games are actually optimized to use the Pro,
as many games are actually optimized to use the Pro.
Not very much.
I have a Pro.
See much performance.
Not very much. I don't see much performance increase at all.
I mean, in the future, maybe.
But, I mean, in the future, maybe.
But
well,
I'm not going to fault Microsoft for it.
But I mean, I'm not going to fault Microsoft.
I mean, because they had the new 3DS. That was a little more powerful. And I think in comparison to the PlayStation, that Nintendo has a little bit more incentive to release a more powerful system because they still have to court third parties. I mean, they're having a really good first year because they have that word of mouth. But right now, it's still pretty much a Nintendo game system. Right. Like anything else you're going to get on it is going to be scaled back. Even something like Skyrim is scaled back from what you're going to get on any other console, graphically, that is. So if they were to get a little bit more juice behind it, they might be able to appeal more to third parties. Because as it stands right now, not only do they have to design for a different system period, like different functionality of the Switch, but they also have to design for the fact that it's not going to be on par with everyone else. Whereas if you're an Xbox or PS4 or PC developer, you're pretty much shooting for a middle of the line target, right? So it's easier to develop for a system that is more in line with those others. I would add to that, though, that they really need to work on their online systems, and they need to work on pricing.
That's
also.
Right.
Yes,
pricing. Like
there's for the system itself.
For the software
system itself.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. There's no reason the game should be as expensive as they are. It's pretty much a Switch tax. That's the term I've heard used for it. And if there's any company right now that should not be having the word tax associated with their games, it's Nintendo. Like, make no mistake, they're doing well, but they really bombed with the Wii U. Yeah. And a lot of that seemed to me to be stubbornness and not reacting to what's happening with the rest of the industry. So, like, with the Switch, you have things like, just in general, the lower power system, but also like friend codes. Like, where is their online system? Because what I'm seeing here is like from 2006, honestly.
That's true.
Yeah, and one of the really other interesting things about the Switch, and I am so conflicted over this. I've had the opportunity to review a fair number of titles for it. And a lot of them are indie titles. A lot of them are titles that have been like re-released onto the Switch. And Chris, you made that comment about like the Switch tax for titles, and it really is a thing. I mean, if you look, I've done like price comparisons from Steam to the Switch, and it's like, I mean, there's a margin of like about 30%. A markup. And it's kind of goofy. And so I'm very interested to see with the big old Nindies push for bringing indie content onto the Switch. Is it just going to become like I'm concerned that the Switch is going to become like the Steam library of games that you didn't pick up on Steam, but you might pick them up on a console. That's what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing anything like that's really kind of like a new indie title that is premiering on the Switch and then migrates the other way. It's more the back.
You might not.
It
might not make any sense to really do so.
It might not make any sense to really do so.
You know what, though? Before we move on from this, even if that is the case, there is value in that. I mean, it's going to be more successful than the Wii U, but look at like the PlayStation Vita. Like, that was a beloved system from the people that had it, and it pretty much became an indie game handheld. What Nintendo really needs to do, though, is they need to get over this statement that it's not a portable device. Because it is. Yes. It's just disingenuous. Yeah. What they're trying to do is they're trying to hold on to their 3DS sales, where that system, it's a great system. they really should sunset it, because I think the Switch is going to be a healthier, more vibrant device if that becomes the Nintendo system. Like that pushes it into this place where it's going to be its best, because it is a wonderful handheld and it's a great home console too. So that's kind of my hope. And then a lot of their game development issues are going to be solved, because then their portable developers are going to be filling that in.
Well, and then before we move on, I just want to
right before we move on, I just want to
talk to the point that Damien was talking about as far as the hardware dock
that increases the power or something like that.
If you guys remember back the Nintendo 64, Donkey Kong Country 64,
Donkey Kong Country 64,
what was it? A power pack, some sort of
what was it? A power
little pack that you actually placed into the Nintendo 64 to increase the power so they could run certain games. And you couldn't play certain games without it.
And you couldn't play certain games without it.
I mean, I don't know of any other consoles that really did anything like that
ever,
as far as I can remember. I mean, of course, you had like Xboxes and stuff that you could upgrade to hard drives, but something that would actually upgrade the processing power. Maybe the only one I know of that did that. So, I mean, not against doing it.
I would think Nintendo would
might consider something like that.
Might consider something like that.
But then you kind of run into the issue that Chris was bringing up, where if you start talking about this as a mobile system, you're going to lose a lot of game functionality if you're going to lose a lot of game functionality playing the games that need to be docked all the time.
Playing the games that need to be docked all the time, and I don't
think
that's kind of
wants to go in. I think
area that Nintendo wants to go in.
I think the big selling point of the Switch is, hey, play here.
I think the big selling point of the Switch is, hey, play here, play there, play on the moon, wherever you want to go.
But it's a home console.
Yeah, exactly. And it's your home console anywhere.
It's your home console anywhere.
So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't think that's going to happen.
We'll see what happens. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that they're going to be
dock like that. But you know who will do a dock like that?
But you know who will do a dock like that?
You will. That will. So
yes, I will.
That guy.
Before we get into that, we're going to talk about what are you playing for everybody.
What are you playing
and we're going to start with Damien because he's so excited.
And we're going to start with Damien because he's so
sure.
And he's playing this game. You might want to tell us a little bit about it. It's called Gear End is what it's called. And we're going to play a little trailer while you tell us what is happening right now.
Sure. So I discovered this darling indie game a couple months back called Gear End that scratched my Metroidvania itch in a Mega Man setting. I mean, that's really the best way that I can describe it, is that you play as Epsilon 98 or EPS. And you wake up in this robotics facility and have to figure out like what's going on. Things are all run down. You have like all of your parts are modular, so you can swap out legs and torsos and arms, and they all do different things for you. And so it was this fun indie romp. It was like everything that I wanted it to be. And the greatest thing about this is the guy that's developing it, Solo Loon, is a solo developer. And when I had some issues out of the gate when I first got it, and I was in contact with him, and like the dude loves this game and is just lovingly caring for this game, and so like I just have to like brag on it. And then like the other thing is it's popping on the screen here. The other thing that I've been playing around with is the Sonnet Breakaway Box 550 is an external graphics processing unit. I've been following this tech for the last couple of years. I'm fascinated by it, geeked out by it, and finally had the opportunity to be able to pick one up and slap a card in it, and it has been just the most phenomenal experience of basically having an external device which is juicing my iMac right now, and it's been wonderful.
Well, since we have Chris here, do you have anything you want to say to Damien about that? Do you want to break his hopes and dreams to pieces or anything like that?
Since it's called a breakaway box, I just would like to point out that the man who's a robot on our show picked a game all about being a robot. And it's fun because you're running a Titan in that thing and you're playing an 8-bit game.
I know. There is something that's really ironic about that.
It's like, all right, things are heating up now. Let's see if it can beat the Nintendo. No, I think that's awesome, and I think that these eGPUs and the rise of them is really great for Mac gamers in particular, because my understanding, having never owned a Mac, was that you guys were always kind of left out in the cold for a lot of games. So this is really cool. If you don't mind my asking, how much does an eGPU box go for?
Sure. So it varies. This particular unit was around $300, but this also has like a, I think it's like a 600-watt power supply in it. Oh, yeah. Sorry, brain was flaking out there. Yeah. Robot brain. But I went with the beefier PSU just so that in the event that I needed more power, that I had it. That it was that I was able to basically run any type of card in the thing, and just kind of be future proofed in that. They can run anywhere from like $200 to $300. There is actually a really neat website that I found that is a great resource. If anybody is curious about the implementation of them, or even just wants to do any research, it's just egpu.io. There's a fantastic community that's there to kind of help answer any questions about it, and there's charts and whatnot on what's what in the environment there. And Chris has got to be happy that I actually got one of these on my own, because I have been bugging him for like the last 3 months about one of these.
Well, we would have got you one, but you needed a card to put in it first.
Right. So it was like cart, horse, and so I figured, you know what, I got to have some skin in the game here. So here we go.
No, that's awesome. I'm happy for you, and you should be able to play pretty much whatever you'd want. I mean, are you getting the same kind of performance out of that you would get if it was plugged into a normal PCIe slot?
So there's a slight degradation. It's a great question. There's a slight degradation in performance just because I'm attached via Thunderbolt 3. So that is a 40 gigabit. So it's 20 up, 20 down on that. Where I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what PCIe is right now. And Chris, you could probably tell me that.
No.
I couldn't actually. So It is slightly slower. The bus speed is slightly slower than if it were plugged directly into a PCIe slot, but it's not enough where it's like terribly noticeable. I mean, I've been getting great performance out of this thing. Like it's actually kind of wild. Like I have more graphics memory right now than I have system memory. So.
Oh man.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I'm happy for you, Dame. Awesome, and you're going to have way more gaming experiences now as a result.
Well, as far as everyone else, what they're playing, none of them have provided any videos for me, so I get to play my video first. And you guys are afterthoughts.
Story of my life.
So what I'm playing, I haven't had a lot of time to play the past couple months, but the game that I've gone back and picking up where I left off is a game that I also consider to be my game for 2017, my favorite game, and it was by Studio MDHR. Cuphead was my game of the year for 2017. I'm finally going back and trying to finish it. It's a beautiful game. It's so much fun. You get to play, you can either play solo or with a friend. And I've tried it both ways. I really can't tell you which one's better. It's difficult no matter which one. I would say that it's better with a friend.
Just a gorgeous game.
It is. It really is. And it's not just the style of the game, but it's also like the music, just the characters. Everything is just amazing. I could not have been more surprised with the game because unlike many people who have been following the game, I really didn't follow the game.
I really didn't follow the game
through the years. I think that it was
through
in
the years, I
for
think
several
that
years.
It was in development for several.
And
years,
I really didn't know anything about it,
and I really didn't know anything about it, and
Bill just passed it to me for a review, and I've been nuts about it ever since. Every chance I get, I mean, if I'm not reviewing something else, I'm playing that. I mean, I'm not going to stop until I beat it.
I mean, I'm not going to stop
until
I beat
it. Maybe I'm a masochist.
And I mean, maybe I'm a masochist a little bit, but I like the difficulty. I like I like.
It just doesn't feel like there are a lot of games out there that have that.
It just doesn't feel like there are a lot of games out there that have that sort of
beaten and drag you out and just
beaten and drag you out.
Make fun of your mom every day, just like
make fun of your mom every day, just like
difficult.
You never played on Xbox Live.
Difficult.
Oh well, I have, but that's different.
Have you ever played Dark Souls?
But that's different.
I have played Dark Souls, but this is different because
this is different.
This is like lighthearted. This is like
lighthearted.
It's not it's not like
it's smiling when it beats you down.
Basically, yeah. It's like
it has happy music when it kills you.
It does, and the happy music means a lot to me.
It does, and the happy music means a lot to me.
I just love the characters. Really, is what it is.
I just
love
the characters.
Every boss is like a character to me.
Like every boss is like a character to me.
Style, different mechanics.
Style.
So
different
that is what I'm playing. And
so that is what I'm playing.
You guys can't stop me.
You guys can't stop me
even if you try.
Sorry.
So what about you, Chris? What are you playing right now?
You, Chris? What are you?
Honestly, not a whole lot at the moment. I did play some Fallout 4 VR, which is pretty cool. It's a bit scaled back, understandably so, because you're dealing with virtual reality, so they have to hit certain frame rates and all that. But I was quite impressed at how well they translated that game into a virtual reality environment. So it's not perfect, but it's a lot of fun if you have a virtual reality headset. This is like the game people have been asking for, quite honestly. They want a real game, not just experiences. Well, this is that. So I was very impressed with that. Overall, though, I've been doing just a ton of the hardware stuff. I have a surgery coming up this month, so I'm kind of front-loading the review load and all of that. So we're doing a keyboard theme this month, so we have a bunch of keyboards coming in. Speaking of, Dave, I will check on that keyboard coming to you, but there's just a lot that's happening here. We have some new products from Crucial, from HyperX. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that's coming down the pipeline. So be sure to check out the site for that.
Absolutely. And David?
Absolutely.
Anything?
David?
Yeah. Sorry. Besides working all the time and having tendonitis in my fingers, I've been playing a lot of Warframe, Escape from Tarkov, and basically mobile gaming.
Mobile gaming?
But
anything good though?
Mobile
anything
gaming?
good?
Anything good though?
My staple for mobile has the Fate Grand Order series, and I love playing that. Otherwise, I've been trying different things. Like, I'm working on a review for the latest wrestling one, which is horrible. The South Park game is good. It's fun. I haven't tried the mobile game yet, but everybody says it's good. Warframe, still enjoying that, and in the process of writing a bi-weekly column for MMORPG.com.
About Warframe.
Yes.
Nice. It's been a long time since I've played Warframe.
It's been a long time since I played Warframe. What keeps you playing?
I've gone back and forth since beta. Part of it is I still have friends to play. Part of it is one of the guys who used to do the tutorial vids for it and stuff, and who streams now but doesn't play as much, is a friend. So I keep going back because of that kind of. And another reason is at TwitchCon I met a couple of other people there, and I had to go back. And you know what? It's fun. I may have spent 1K plat on Christmas ornaments and skins, but you know, I keep going back because as long as it's been out, it's still free to play, and they still continually update it. And it's one of the few games not only updated, but they've changed the very core of the game at least 3 different times. So I mean, it's one of the things like.
That's interesting. I didn't know that they had changed the core. So
I didn't know that they had changed the core. It's still the same game,
but like the core, let's say, mechanics for combat and such, right?
Okay.
That's been changed since the very first iteration to what it is now. It's still very much parkour, jump, dive, ninja, space ninja, but they've kind of refined it more and more, added some new things. So it's still a fun game.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear. I mean,
yeah. That's great to hear. I mean, I would hope that you're playing fun games.
Oh no, you got me. I'm a shill. So I've got to pay the games I get paid to play.
That's right. We all are.
You know, I stepped away for a second there.
We all are.
I had to go roll in my giant piles of publisher money.
Exactly.
They're filling up my kitchen. Every now and again, you just have to embrace all of that review money we get.
What Dave knows about that.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, what you can't see is underneath my desk, I just have like a swimming pool that I'm sitting in. You know, so it's my money jacuzzi that I'm just sitting in.
It's the Scrooge McDuck factor.
It's the Scrooge McDuck factor. You got like
it's all those swimming it every day.
All those Destiny 2 kickbacks, right?
Mm-hmm. All those Pop-Tarts.
So right before we go, any shows you guys are watching? Any shows you guys are watching? Else that you guys want people to know about? Plug it now.
Plug it now.
You know, you'll have to wait until next time you're on the show.
You'll have to wait until next time you're on the show.
All right, man. Well, I'll plug something. I am not afraid to plug things, but first, I want to take a second to tell you guys, number one, like you've all heard of Stranger Things, right? Yeah. That's taken over the country. Have you heard of the show Dark?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have.
I have not watched it yet, but it's on my list.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have watched a few episodes.
I have watched a few episodes.
I don't know what's going on.
I
haven't revisited it yet.
I haven't revisited it.
That's because they're talking German.
They are. But I mean, it is an English dub.
They are. But I mean, it is an English
dub.
That
they are not speaking
English. But you
English.
can very clearly tell that they are not speaking English.
I think I will finish it one day.
I think I will finish it one day.
I'm interested to see what you think about it.
I'm interested.
Well, it strikes me as a darker kind of Stranger Things. Now, Stranger Things is pretty dark too, but if you just watch the trailers, it feels more adult, I guess, in a way. And I don't know if that's actually going to pan out, but I had a hard choice to make. See, these are shows I can't watch with my wife. So I sit up in bed before I go to sleep with my Netflix on my cell phone, and I can choose one show at a time. Otherwise, I'll never finish anything. So it was Stranger Things or Dark, and I said, you know what, we got to do season 2 of Stranger Things. So it's one of those things that's going to happen. But it looks good. It looks very interesting. So the thing that I will plug is we have CES coverage that's going to be happening, number one. So everybody should be watching the internet for that, because that's I don't know if we call it the Super Bowl, because there's several of these shows throughout the year, but it is a very big electronic show to find out what's coming throughout the year. We're going to be covering that. I already know of a couple cool things that are going to be coming out that will release when the embargo's up. So definitely keep an eye on the site. And I got this really cool keyboard today, and we've established that I'm a keyboard junkie, but he's
going to be sitting on a throne of keyboards the next episode.
Dude, I probably could. I have 18 mechanical keyboards.
Good night.
Right? So I'm trying to handle this. My wife is not happy that I have all of these keyboards, especially because most of them light up like rainbows when you first plug them in. But the one that I just got sent today was from this company called IKBC, and it's really neat for two reasons. Number one, it's completely made out of metal in the frame of it. This thing is probably 5 or 6 pounds. Honest to God, you could crack somebody in the head and kill them dead. So it's a home defense weapon. But also, it acts as a kitchen timer. Of all things.
Wait, what?
Yes, I'm serious. So
a kitchen timer?
I was reading the manual, and it says on there time machine. So we know how all these light up keyboards, they do different like rainbows, and they blink and swell and all that kind of stuff. Well, this one, you can literally set a timer on it where, like, let's say you have chicken in the oven for the next 45 minutes. Well, you can plug in 45 minutes on this thing, and as you get to that last minute, it will light up all of your keys, and it will count them down, and it'll make your keyboard flash until you turn it off. So it's like a save the dinner function on the keyboard, so you don't get wrapped up in PUBG too much.
No one will ever burn their pizza rolls ever again.
That's exactly what it is. Man. Although I don't like your stereotypes, Damien.
I was talking about myself. I wasn't talking about anybody else.
No, but I thought it was really cool. So one of the things that we're focusing on with this keyboard theme is getting into keyboards that are like enthusiast ones, not necessarily gaming branded, but that will still be perfectly functional for gaming and extremely high quality. Like you're not going to find a gaming keyboard that is a solid hunk of metal, because believe it or not, that makes it feel much better to actually type on. So it's pretty cool. So stay tuned for that.
I don't doubt it.
I am looking forward to being made into a believer of the mechanical keyboard.
You don't have a mechanical keyboard?
Okay.
I do not.
You don't have a mechanical? Okay.
Why? I have 18 of them. Why did you say something?
I don't know. I'm the new guy. I mean, I don't know how this works, so I'm just figuring it out.
Once I went mechanical, I can't go back.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, geez, the one you're getting, it's not even like a traditional mechanical. It's an optical one. Like, you can't just go from normal keyboard to a laser keyboard. That's not how this works. You're gonna take a keycap off and like blind yourself, man.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Well, personally for me, I think the kitchen timer is amazing.
For me, I think the kitchen timer
I want a keyboard with a kitchen timer now. I'm gonna have to
tape
a kitchen timer to my keyboard.
I'm gonna have to tape
it so I can be as cool as you. No, but it makes so much sense because I mean you can use it for so many things. Like, I gotta leave in 45 minutes. I gotta leave in playing something. You know, just set the timer for 45 minutes.
Just set the timer for 45 minutes. And
you know what?
I mean,
Dad mine turns on. So like this keyboard should last until I'm an old man. That for the amount these things cost, and it's metal, it should. So when my kids are old enough, I'm gonna be like, all right, son, you have 10 minutes to play this game, and I'm gonna make sure you know by plugging it right into your keyboard. There's no way you can say you didn't know those minutes went by when it was flashing in your face. You're grounded.
The only thing that you need to do, though, is set up an air horn somehow to go off at the same time.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, man. We're getting into maker territory. I think I could make this happen.
Okay, awesome.
But only if it's at the end of like a Rube Goldberg machine, so we can end every night like the beginning of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh yeah. Oh man, like that. Oh, yeah. I always wanted something like that to happen.
I always wanted something like that to happen in my house.
And they did like the most trivial things all the time.
And they did like the most trivial things all the time.
You know, they had one in Back to the Future.
You know, they had one in Back to the Future, just make breakfast, and you know, just ridiculous things.
So, anything else, you guys? You got any other shows?
Anything else, you guys? You got any other shows?
Special things coming up? You want people to take note of?
Coming up?
This is where he gets you to admit to show infidelity.
Any other reviews? Yes.
Next time on Cheaters.
Right.
Please do.
It's Shadowrun Light with Alienation. Thanks. That's it. Bye.
he knows how I feel about
this. It's actually really good and casual.
He knows how I feel about this.
He knows how much I dislike.
He knows how much I dislike.
I'm gonna give him a pass on this one.
I'm gonna give him a pass on this one.
I'm feeling generous. But I will say, you know what? I am gonna agree with him to some point because I think that you need to watch it. I think that you need to experience it for yourself so you can share in my rage, or you might be on his side and enjoy it.
I will say, if you don't like the movie, the setting itself, take a second look back at the setting. The setting is nice.
I agree with that.
I would love to see more stories in that setting.
I would have loved to see world building. Is what I really want. I think that they could have done so much more, but I'm not gonna sit here and talk about it.
But I'm not gonna
because that's another hour. We don't have that.
Because that's another hour.
You know what though? Your world building point. I know you're trying to end us, but our world building point. They start that movie with a part where the orc turns on death metal and says it's the greatest love song ever. If that's not world building, then nothing is.
I would agree with that. I mean, that sets a tone. It really does.
Also, it was greenlit for a sequel already.
It was greenlit for a sequel. I think before it even launched.
It was greenlit for a sequel. I think before it even launched. I think they're just like, we nabbed Will Smith. We're gonna ride this.
Lock him down
till he leaves, basically.
But no, I mean, I'm not gonna poke holes.
But no, I mean, I'm not gonna poke holes.
I'm not gonna do that after everyone. I'll save that for watching this.
After everyone watching this
has had a chance to watch it, so that I can
to
watch destroy their hopes and dreams too.
Destroy their hopes and dreams.
But what about you, Dane? Anything?
What about you, Dane?
Yeah, as far as just shows that I'm watching, I'm one of those people that I'm still sticking with Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
It's actually this season has been kind of interesting.
It's a real good season.
It's a really good season. They're in space too, and so my wife and I we both enjoy watching it. So we're like trying to figure out right now like who's who, and like there's some new characters that we're trying to figure out if there's some connections, and just seeing some and there was a reappearance of a character this last episode. I won't spoil it if anybody is interested in watching, but it was so great to see him again. So
it really was. Have you noticed that this season they are getting distinctly more violent?
Yes, I have. Oh my word, yes.
A little bit, yeah. I have noticed that.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That is,
I mean, maybe a lot of it.
I mean,
there's been
maybe a lot of it.
Yeah, there's been lots of fighting.
Been some killing. Yeah, definitely lots of fighting.
But you know what? I mean, they kind of started heading more in that direction.
They kind of started heading more in that direction whenever they were doing the Ghost Rider stuff.
It was getting pretty violent there.
It was when they got pushed into the later time slot.
Yeah.
On Friday. And so, which is cool because then they kind of took advantage of that. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely been taking that turn. I hope that show never goes off the air, though. I love that show.
It's a good show.
I'm really curious to see now that all of the family is kind of coming home to the same house. Now that we have the whole like Fox and Disney deal, and I'm very interested to see. Now that we might be able to say mutant instead of inhuman, and to see if there are any fan favorites that come into that. So we'll see.
Maybe not. I mean, I think that it's going to be tough for them.
I think that it's going to to be tough for them to blend the shows, but I hope that they do eventually blend some shows.
Until he encounters Star Wars. Like on episode 7, Chewie shows up. They're in outer space now.
That would be fantastic.
It really would, wouldn't it?
I can just see like Mac, just kicking the door in with his, shotgun axe and
That's dual Chewies. I don't think we get higher than that on this podcast.
I still haven't watched one episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. yet.
Dude.
You can't just watch one episode either.
You can't
just see one and know what's going on.
It's hard for
you
me
to
try
see
to
one
binge
and then know what's going on
with everything else I'm doing. One day.
They've come a long way.
They really have. The show
Definitely
I feel like is come a long way. It's come into its own. It really has, and I'm glad that ABC is stuck with it.
Me too.
Yeah. The only show that I'm going to plug is one that I just finished up. I think I still have a few episodes left. It's called Harmon Quest.
It's called
Harmon. Dan Harmon.
Created by Dan Harmon.
Rick and Morty,
Rick and Morty.
He's done all that. So basically, the premise is that it's a tabletop.
So basically, the premise is that it's a tabletop
that they animate
game.
And that they have guests, and they kind of go through this whole quest every week. It's a new guest star.
Every week, it's a new guest star who dies or
gets thrown out of the story. But
they
just kind of go through and play like
just
a tabletop game with voice actors.
Like a tabletop game
it's
with
really
voice
interesting. It's on
It's on
I'm not sure. It's like a new app created by Crunchyroll.
A new app created by Crunchyroll.
What that was.
If you guys are familiar with what that was.
Really interesting show. Really funny.
Interesting show. Really
I think
funny.
I
think they're playing a Pathfinder. I think that's like the tabletop that they're playing.
Don't quote me on that.
But don't quote me on that. My tabletop experience is relatively small.
But
so
the show itself is entertaining. I don't care who you are.
The show itself is entertaining. I don't care who you are.
I would say,
even if you've never played a tabletop game, but you understand the tropes, check it out. It's worth the watch.
I've watched one episode of Harmon Quest, and like I absolutely love when people take like the D&D trope and play on that, because that's exactly what Harmon Quest is like you get that whole like RPG, you get people like RPing around a table and trying to figure out, okay, like how do I stab this guy, or I want to do like a flip over the bench and and just knife him in the back, and okay, well, you got to roll for that. Oh, you failed miserably.
Yeah.
You ended up jumping into the fire. Now you're on fire. What do you do with that?
No, it's so good because
it's so good because
there are a lot of things that happen, and
there are a lot of things that happen.
It is a table. They're actually playing a tabletop game, so you really get that kind of feel. But it's also really funny because in a lot of situations they're playing with people who've never played before. So they have like the dungeon master and all that kind of stuff.
Like the dungeon master and all that kind of stuff.
Who's just trying to facilitate like all these different things.
Who's just trying to facilitate
and make
all
it work.
these different things.
It's really entertaining.
It's really entertaining. For me, at least.
Got to get them rolls in.
Yeah. I mean, I just find it.
I mean, I just
think that it's freaking awesome.
I just think that it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, definitely check that out if you guys haven't.
Definitely check that out if you guys haven't.
Another thing that I would like to bring up about
also another thing that I would like to bring up about Verve.
They have a lot of really interesting channels.
They have a lot of really interesting channels.
Right now, it's kind of like a subscription service, like
right now it's kind of like a subscription service, like Hulu.
But if you're like an anime fan, anime is like your thing. By far like. They have like a Funimation channel where like everything is dubbed.
Everything is dubbed if you don't like reading the subtitles.
I mean, I wouldn't say everything, but I'd say 90%.
I mean, I would say everything, but I'd say 90% of the stuff that I've seen on there is dubbed,
which is good for me because
is good for me because
I barely know how.
So I don't got time to read. I barely know how.
I think that it's I think something that you guys should check out if you're anime fans.
It's something that you guys should check out if you're anime fans.
All right.
Yeah. But that pretty much wraps it up. Unless you guys have something else.
Pretty much wraps it up. Unless you guys have something else.
Happy New Year, everyone!
Oh, Happy New Year, everybody!
Oh, Happy New Year, everybody!
Next week's show, we'll be doing it at the same time, just earlier.
We'll be doing it at the same time, just earlier.
Same time, but earlier. I'm not sure who's going to be with us.
I'm not sure who's going to be with us.
We don't know. But I will be there. And hope to see you all there as well.
And we hope to see you all there as well.
Internet land.
Out in Internet land.
But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week
at
9 p.m. Central Standard Time.
We'll see you next week at 9 p.m. Central
Bye, everybody.
Standard Time.
Bye. See ya.